and I'll pop them up. Okie dokie. That was my test one. It's not that screen. Alrighty guys, first question is, I'm assuming this is sort of for Danesh, but probably appropriate for Izzy as well, and is, what is the potential legal ramifications of direct action?
Do you want to take this first?
So that's a great question. That depends on what kind of direct action it is. Direct action can cover anything from protests and marches, even vigils, to slaughterhouse shutdowns. If, for example, New South Wales, if you don't have a murder assembly for a vigil, you have to move on order. You can't go back to the same area in like 24 hours or whatever it specifies. With shutdowns and things like that, that really depends. Sometimes you have, like these shutdowns are incredibly well planned, and sometimes they're not because there's just a reaction to something that's happened, like the Lakeside thing was, or there's a truck rollover. So you don't really get to plan and liaise with a lawyer. But I guess it really depends. So when we were arrested, we were charged with 5 charges, which was trespass, disrupting a business, animal cruelty, intent to steal or kill, and damage to property. That was yours. Amy had an extra charge for assaulting an officer.
I headbutt his fist.
So every action you have can have legal ramifications, which is why direct action groups exist and why Legion exists, so that organisers can go through what kind of ramifications these actions will have and how best to protect the attendees, I guess, the activists. But in knowing that some actions will always have risks, I believe that whether you believe in a high power or not, that someone is out there looking for us, whether it's the Animal Defender's Office, Peter Singleton, someone is out there looking out for us because we're doing the right thing. So, in terms of legal ramifications, we'll be taken care of, I think.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that as well. So we're actually working on a little black book of all our legal rights that activists will be able to take onto actions with them. And it'll just have your basic rights, things like whether you have to hand over your phone or whether you have to give police your PIN. Just all these basic things that police will take advantage of if you don't know your basic rights. So we're working on that at the moment with the Animal Defender's Office. We'll also be running a workshop with them probably around February next year. So I encourage everybody to come along to that. We will post it on our page. And that way everyone can ask. If you have any questions for now, they've asked me to start putting together a document of questions that people will have. And just on another note too, when we do organise an action, like Danesh said, when there is time for planning, we do get a lot of legal advice. So far, the Lakesland case, that was one that just came up very last minute, and we are pleading not guilty to all those charges, and we're hoping to set a precedent here in New South Wales for that. And I just want to thank everybody for their support so far with that. We do have a fundraiser for our legal team. We do have the Animal Defender's Office, and Peter Singleton, as Emma mentioned, is helping us a lot as well, and Mark Pearson gave us a lot of advice too, so the community really rallied behind us. I wouldn't say to allow that to concern you too much about getting involved in direct action, because as we've seen in a lot of social justice movements, we do have a moral obligation to break unjust laws, and the only way those unjust laws have changed is by people pushing those boundaries. So, besides the Lakesland case, the worst we sort of had before that was move-on orders, which is basically they just tell you to go away from that area for a certain period of time. So, yeah, does anyone else want to add anything to that? Yeah.
Yeah, like as you said, when you challenge these laws,
that really is the opportunity to test them in the courts. And it's worth remembering that there's no social justice cause throughout history that has ever been progressed without direct action. So it is crucial with that.
Alright, I'm going to swing the mic right back to you there, Mike. For Michael Valley, where to go? Yeah. How do you differentiate between infighting and criticism?
I think one of the points I tried to make in my presentation is that, to be honest, it's almost impossible to differentiate between these two, depending on which perspective you look at it from. So, I really don't think that's the key thing to take away. I think even with criticism or quote-unquote infighting that you think is nothing but destructive, please try and reflect on it. Try to work out what you're doing in your contact that may have attracted it. That was really what got me thinking about a lot of the things I was doing in my outreach, and a lot of things we still do. And whether or not we can simply, rather than dismissing things as infighting, rephrase them as criticism and work out if we can improve. Work out if there's something that we can learn that might actually improve our processes. And to be honest, I really think there's a lot we can do. I think the idea that we have perfected our outreach, I think is misguided. And I think part of trying to work out what you can constructively take from criticism or infighting will assist with our evolution. Sorry if I can't be more specific.
Alrighty, this one's to Mr. Matt Rhoda. There he is. Hello. To Matt, who do you think does social media the best in the entirety of the worldwide vegan community? With parentheses, this isn't like, I don't think this means our community, I mean, I think it means like in the whole world. And parentheses besides you, of course.
Did you write that yourself?
Shit, man. I have no idea. I mean, I know how to make videos get a lot of views. Other than that, not a clue. If I had to pick someone, I'd say James Aspey. That's just because of my own personal biases, though, more than likely. So, James Aspey, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. I reckon, in regards to tactics-wise, Aaron Janis, I think a lot of people, I don't know if you know what Aaron Janis is, that's the Dairy in 5 minutes one, Dairy is Scary. If you look at all of her videos, she's only done 4 or 5 and she consistently has like a lot of views, and I've kind of stalked her profile, not in a creepy way, just like gone to her Facebook page, looked at her videos, kind of seeing what she's done with stuff, and you get the vibe that she's very intentionally taken steps to get those views as opposed to just uploading something and it happened to get picked up. So, official answer would probably be her, I suppose. Yeah, so, cool.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, this one's for Priscilla. What video was displayed for people to watch at the cupcake stall on campus?
So we play Watch 1000 Eyes, and so it's really easily accessible. All you need is internet and a device. But recently we've been playing what Kai's made, which is 1000 Eyes 2, and that's just a compilation of footage from Dominion that's being cut and edited. Yeah.
All right. To all, where'd that one go? To all, how do you deal with burnout? Let's just start with a 30-second lightning answer from left to right.
Just a lot of self-love and doing what's playing to your strengths and working what's best for you.
I sleep until 12, I go to the gym, and I watch Netflix for like 3 days in a row. I'm good.
Make sure you take a deep breath and put things into perspective and maybe have some sort of other positive type of activism that you can do alongside your kind of graphic nature activism.
Realise you're not alone. There are other people. If you need a day out, if you need time out, other people will take your space. We are a big community, we're getting bigger. Take time out. Support your friends. We are one big family. So when you're actually helping other people, you're helping yourself as well. But take time out. Read Claire's book. Claire's book is fantastic. I'm not on commission or anything else like that. That book is a guidebook to how to deal with people, how to deal with yourself and self-care.
Carbs and cardio for me. Just carbs pop up. Do that.
That's a good question. What Jason said, see Claire. I've seen Claire myself, she's great. It can be a bit hard to deal with burnout when you're so busy with activism and your regular life that you don't have time to self-love. But I don't know, just have to make time for it. I cuddle my dog a lot. I took her to the beach yesterday and then to the park here in Newtown. You need, I guess you need something in your life like that.
Yeah, I would highly recommend having an outside interest, whether that's cooking or running or whatever it is, to get yourself away from it when you do need to. Our lives are based on how many identities we have, and the more identities we have within ourselves, the stronger we are as people, so that we know that if I'm burnt out with this, I still have X, Y, Z in my life that I'm going to throw myself into for a while and then come back.
Yeah, just go chalking or skiing instead. Just cut a muffin and get your mental health care plan and then see Claire for sure.
Balance, although I don't always get that right. I try to prioritise spending time doing things away from activism with my beautiful partner Michelle. But yeah, I haven't always got it right, and there's times when I'm just trying to throw myself at everything that just didn't work out long term. So yeah, balance.
How many meals a eat? Come on.
I just want to add one more thing. Eat and drink. With certain types of activism, it can be really hard to get, like I said, time out. But I think we need to remember that. I'm 24 and I have another 30 years left of activism at least. That you don't try your best to go to every single event and do as much as you can. But it's okay to take a break if you need to. If you need to step out for a little bit and take care of yourself so that you can do this fight for longer, then do it. We don't want activists burning out and never coming back. We want people in for the long haul.
Alright, this one's for Pat. What do you think is the best way to aid collaboration between veganism and other social justice movements?
I think it's hard to collaborate with social justice groups that are reluctant to extend their ideology of equality and justice to animals. So like you can do all the standard forms of activism, like make videos and outreach and use those tools to show them how animals are just as important, if not more important than humans. But if they don't make the connection themselves, like the burden is only on you for so long. And it's really just about evolution. If you give them all the facts and, just talk logic and they still can't see that, there's only so much you can do. But hopefully, because veganism is about evolution, it'll be a natural, just like women's rights and black rights and gay rights, it'll be a natural eventual progression until we get there. But I do think calling their hypocrisy out and exposing, the double standards is a very effective way to do it and get them on board, even though it doesn't seem like it. Because you're not actually against their rights, you're just saying animals want them as well. Animals want to be treated fairly as well.
Right, this one is for Emma, and it's pretty highly upvoted, so obviously there's a couple of people who want to hear this answer. To Emma, how can foreign nationals help with animal liberation politics?
This is an interesting one. At the Animal Justice Party conference, I actually had the privilege to interview a Saudi Arabian prince who went vegan about 8 or 9 years ago. I sort of asked him a very similar question because obviously he's from the Middle East and I wanted to get like a different viewpoint. And his idea was to look at for him personally, the way he saw it is he could see how our political system sort of filters down into other systems. And one thing from me, working more globally now and realising the different structures of different countries and how you run a campaign in a different country. In China, for example, we're not even allowed to have a petition. You're not allowed to petition the government. I can't even send an invoice via email to any of my officers in China. So it makes it very difficult, but we just have to learn what those different systems are and work with them. So one example that the Prince was using, there was, I think it was in Jordan, where they had donkeys taking tourists up a mountain, and the donkeys were in a very bad situation. So he actually met with the tourism minister and said, I will pay to retire the donkeys, pay for their constant veterinary care, and we'll put some electric carts that can take the tourists up that are environmentally friendly. So he put that sort of system in place. When I look at my own work, I realise that we are a minority country. When I like to think about the world as minority and majority countries. So Australia, Europe, most parts of Europe and America, we are a minority of people. Whereas if you look at majority countries, India and Africa, we're looking at, they're looking at the Western world and starting to move towards that. You can see that throughout Asia as well, where they're starting to introduce some of these intensive farming systems. So we need to actually start to break that down early so that that sort of systems are not followed. But it starts to get really complicated when you start to think about foreign countries and the way that different cultures view animals and the way that they view the campaigns and what you can and can't do for a campaign as well. I don't think that's kind of answered the question very well, but I think that we've got a potential here in Australia to get a couple of people in Parliament, and I think if we can shape a lot of government policy here in Australia, then I think a lot of people will start to adopt that in other countries as well and actually start to pick up some of those law changes as well. Australia is really quite behind on animal law in comparison to a lot of Europe and America, in my point of view anyway. So, and the industries are just so strong here. So, but we've got more chance of actually getting people into Parliament here as well. So we're kind of a mixed match.
Sorry, Marcus, that was sign language, but can you please turn the air conditioner on? It's super freaking hot in here. Alright. Question to Izzy, she's probably the best person to answer this. How does one get involved in slaughterhouse shutdowns and blockades?
I don't do those kind of things. Look, the best way to get involved in those kind of actions is to actually just get out to actions like vigils and Cube and all the public kind of stuff. Generally, that's how you get to know people and other organisers, and that's how organisers can get to know who you are as well. Generally, if you get sort of a random request on Facebook from someone with a Facebook message with stuff like that, you kind of, in terms of keeping things secure, you kind of don't really want to respond to that. Someone asked before about Signal. So Signal is an encrypted messaging app. So unlike Facebook Messenger, it's all encrypted. So it's actually a safer way to contact about these kind of actions. So you can download that onto your phone. But yeah, the best way to get involved is to actually just get out to stuff and get to know people. You know, join groups like, you know, come to vigils, you know, join groups like Legion or other SAVE groups and stuff like that, and just so people can get to know who you are. Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that?
So when I was an organizer of Legion, we screened all our members. So, like as you were saying, we want to know that we can be trustworthy, that it's someone people know, you're not just some random, you know, ASIO investigator or something like that. It can be a bit hard to get your foot in the door, but you just sort of got to start coming to actions, and people need to know who you are.
Yeah, yeah. And look, the other side of that too, some of the environments we find ourselves in are quite stressful environments, and we are a non-violent group, so I would want to know that you're not going to go in there and represent Legion and beat the hell out of some slaughterhouse worker or someone at a sale yard or something like that. So, and just, you do work quite closely together, so we just need to know who you are. That's the main thing I can stress with that, yeah. And just contact via Signal as well, as opposed to Facebook Messenger. It's a lot safer. So.
Awesome. This one I'll shoot towards Danesh again. Do you think the Liberation Pledge is effective? And maybe you just want to elaborate for anyone who doesn't know what the Liberation Pledge is.
So the Liberation Pledge is a pledge you take that you will not sit down with people who are consuming and hurting animals, and sit down with them in a meal, for example. Izzy might be a better person to answer this question. I took it out of convenience, really. At the time I was studying Bachelor of Nursing, and I was working at Westmead Kids, and I did night shifts, 12-hour night shifts, and we didn't have time for breaks, really. And if we did, we sat at our desk and ate. So I didn't really eat with other people. And I don't really go to many family occasions. If I do, I explain to them, you know, I'll be there, but I'll be away from the food, or I'll try to get them to serve vegan food. I think it can be beneficial because a lot of people feel uncomfortable about speaking up about why they're eating a vegan meal, or find it difficult that, you know, eating a vegan meal in front of other people who aren't vegan. But if you take a stance, you know, you're kind of pushing yourself for people to ask questions to why you're doing this, you know, and it opens up an opportunity for people to ask questions. So I guess it's up to you if it's the right thing for you to do. Izzy, did you want to? You might be a better person to answer this question.
Look, on a personal level, I took the Liberation Pledge because for me, it's an assertive action. I won't sit there with anybody consuming dead animals or consuming products of violence, and for me it's all about making that stand and normalising veganism as opposed to normalising sitting at a table with dead animals on the table. I couldn't be going and doing shutdowns and rescues and things like that and then sitting down having a meal with someone and making it seem like it's okay that that's happening. So on a personal level, that's why I took the pledge. I think everyone's got to find if it's effective for them or not. Some people are better at outreaching at a meal when people are consuming those products, but for me it was more about taking that assertive stance. So, yeah.
I don't eat if I do eat animals, but what about going into a cafe and getting coffee, for instance?
Do I go to it?
How does that sit in terms of saying whether we're probably taking or not?
I'll go to a cafe and buy a coffee, but I won't sit there and consume a meal. I'm not staying in the cafe. Yeah, I'll even actually wait out. I'll make a point of waiting outside. Yeah, and I often even make a point if they do have products of violence on their menu, which a lot of them do. You know, I'll make a point of suggesting they put vegan things on their menu. So, yeah.
I think what Izzy was saying as well, when you do a lot of direct action, you find a lot more difficult to sit down with people who are consuming animals. And the Liberation Pledge is a way of dealing with that, where at the same time you can kind of outrage saying, this is why I'm not doing this, it's not acceptable.
That's right.
So I think a lot of you who have done shutdowns have kind of noticed the change I'm talking about.
Great. This one's for Emma. Do you think the AGP, Animal Justice Party, will combine with the Greens or another political party the way that the Liberals and Nationals have?
I know who to blame for that. Look, I think that first of all, I want to say that the reason that the Animal Justice Party exists is because the Greens didn't have strong enough policies on animals. You could have still been a party that came about, but we only built our strength because the Greens are very pro shooting kangaroos. The Greens, Kate Fairman in New South Wales, who has the portfolio for animal welfare, has just pushed for a Brumby cull, in inverted commas. And Jeremy Buckingham has also laughed and joked about the fact that he shoots rabbits from his bedroom window. So we took issue with that. I mean, look, the Greens have some great policies for social movements in general, for human rights, some things for environment and things like that, but they fell very short when it came to animal policies. But that's not to say that we wouldn't work with them. I mean, if there was the potential, for example, to form a government with Labor and the Greens and the Animal Justice Party, we could potentially get some enormous bills through if that were to occur. So it's not like a definite no, but these other parties would have to actually see our animal policies. And if they did, if we were just there as numbers for them, then there's no way that we would ever join with them, because we need those animal policies to be much stronger, and that's the whole reason the AJP actually exists.
Thank you, Emma. I'm probably going to take 3 or 4, maybe more questions before we wrap up. So if you desperately want to get a question, you haven't asked it, jump on the link and we'll run it through. Alright, this one's for Jason. I don't know who it's from. Can you elaborate on how visuals put pressure on the industry?
Industry doesn't want us there. Industry doesn't want us to be aware. Industry has been going for a long period of time. We're growing stronger, we're growing aware. How it puts pressure on industry? We have cameras, we have the ability to tell people we are turning off animal products they produce. We're turning our back on milk, we're turning our back on eggs. We're finding out, even bit by bit, where people are getting aware of what free range is, whereas before they didn't. People are changing. Industry does not want us to know that. The drought obviously is significant, and there's a lot of funding that's coming towards animal agriculture farmers, not to plant-based farmers or crop farmers or animal sanctuaries. Over time, people are getting more aware, even about the environment. People are knowing where their food is coming from, and that's the pressure we can put on. Vigils actually take it to their doorstep. So, as opposed to just the supermarket where we say we don't want these products, we go to the vegan market with 9,999 other people and we consume other products. But taking it to their doorstep, telling the police we're there, getting permission to be there, and taking footage. The other day we were there at 11:30 till 2 in the morning over in a large turkey facility down in the south of Sydney. We were dedicated. This was cold, in the middle of the night. There were 3 trucks that they got us, they approved with us to have. Industry now can see this footage that we've taken. We put hashtags all over Facebook and social media, Turkey. So people now are searching for Turkey. We'll see people that have gone to vigils or seeing turkeys being hung upside down with their throats being slit. There are things that we can do that industry doesn't know, and that's quite important we put pressure on. Is it?
Thank you, Jason. Alright guys, we're going to have a couple more. This one is addressed to everyone. It's quite a juicy one. Okay, where was it? Okay, 2.
At times, possibly, but on balance, it may not work. I think over the years of doing this, I've tried to put aside what wells up within me, and I just have these urges to say and do, and try to focus more on what I think is actually effective. And what I've found with people that aren't vegan is that they're always looking for something to latch onto, to get out of the conversation, to not be engaged on the topic that highlights what they're supporting. So I've decided to use tactics that really starve them of opportunities to do that. So I guess on balance it doesn't, however, in certain situations it might.
I used to be very, very guilty of this. For 4 years I was fighting my ass off. Late nights, only recently stopped a lot, thanks to Justin Preem, who gave me some advice. Asked them to present you evidence, video evidence of humane slaughter. They won't be able to. And then attach AussieFarms.org and say, here's my hundreds of hours of video evidence. Leave it for the day, come back later that night, still waiting for my evidence. 2 seconds, phone down. Next day, no evidence yet, 2 seconds, phone down. At least now they know humane slaughter is a myth.
I'm actually going to say no, probably not. I mean, and very similar to what Michael was saying, is what we call in psychology cognitive dissonance. And that's something that we've probably all experienced, is the excuses that people come up in their heads not to change. People will always look for the easy way out, and they will look for an excuse not to change their behaviour. So if we come at them from a name and shame and aggressive point of view, it's very easy to shut you down. Whereas, some of the strategies that Andy was just talking about, as far as that street activism, where it's like, this is not us, that's actually, we're on the same level, rather than a shaming behaviour where that person will go, oh, we'll stuff you, and walk away. And then they've sort of, their excuse for ignoring the information you've given them is, oh, that person was rude and aggressive and I'm not going to listen to them. So I think that we need to be very careful about not activating cognitive dissonance if we can avoid it.
I'm not on social media that much these days, but I think it kind of depends on the context. I think there is some value in being controversial, but in so you have to do that quite strategically. At the same time, it's probably better not to offend too many people. I don't know, I'm not the best person to answer this question. My activism doesn't involve social media a lot, but I think it depends on the context.
I think it can be kind of hilarious, like if you're kind of funny about it and you're still intelligent. What's the question? Like, is it good to sort of shame it? Oh, okay, yeah. Like Danesh said, like it depends on the content. If you're a big YouTuber and you make a video like slamming someone, like making games or something like that, and it gets a million views, I'm going to say yes, it's good, because you've just reached the message to millions of people and they're going to share it with their friends and stuff. But if you're just like commenting on a post and arguing with someone, like I can think of a lot better ways to spend your time. But in my opinion, there's only bad activism, there's no activism, and if that's your thing, just doing that, then look, I think there's other more effective ways, but I wouldn't say it's not effective at all.
I don't know how I feel about this question, because I'm in two minds about it. I kind of think people should be ashamed of the way they treat animals. Having said that, though, I won't waste my time arguing online, because I'd just prefer to be out there doing stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, just to share a bit of perspective of my own on there, I definitely don't think defaming and shaming is the right way to do it. And I think if someone's trying to genuinely engage with them in a discussion, even if they're being quite foolhardy and resistant, is to engage them properly. However, there is a certain section of detractors online, typically characterised usually white, middle-aged males who genuinely believe the best way to combat veganism online is to post pictures of steak in comment sections. And that's it. And they think they got you. Now, for those individuals, and I see so many of us, we see that and we go into Earthling Ed mode and we write them this paragraph. It's like, these guys don't need Earthling Ed, right? These guys need Gary Rofsky here. And perhaps not shame and defame, but expose and ruthlessly humiliate? Yes. I think when we think about social media activism, oftentimes we think of it as a conversation at the cube on the street, where it's you and that person. You have to convince them or persuade them. One, if someone thinks posting pictures of steak is an argument, you're not going to persuade them. Two, it's about the people on the periphery. It's not about that one person you're talking to, it's about the 20 people who are watching that comment section silently. They're going to go, no one responded to that guy. They're going to go, wow, that guy got ruined on that post. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to think next time I think that's a good argument.
Thanks, Gary. It depends on the scenario. I do get carried away sometimes online with this. However, I look to see who's posting. So if you've got a farmer posting the pictures of steak or talking about animals or laughing and joking, I like calling out the farmer. I put a big arrow and put farmer, biased opinion. Or I'll just engage them and focus on the people, as Kai said, that are reading it. There's a lot of people reading it. So that the pages I would focus on are the ones like the news program, things like ABC News, when there's an article about should there be a meat tax, or even New South Wales Greens, where someone is being attacked. And firstly, halal, it's inhumane. Well, can you define humane? And then you have a conversation about someone about it's not just halal, it's everything. And you can open it up. But again, being respectful, knowing that other people are reading it, as opposed to just ignoring it and thinking, this is too hard. We should call out when we do have things which are completely incorrect. And but obviously, if you're going to a page which is breeding animals, you're going to have a tough audience. Or even a rodeo page, it's going to be a tough audience. However, if you go to a news page which is talking about breeding animals, or talking about rodeo, you've got more chance of talking to people who are sitting on the sidelines, the quiet majority who are going to be the ones that just don't know and can be convinced. If you think about same-sex marriage, if you had a conversation on it 10 years ago, no one would have been in favour, everyone would have been against, everyone in Middle Australia would have been pretty angry. Now, you can engage and have a conversation. So it's all about context and where just realising that people could be watching and not really sure on their view, and they'll do what someone else does. And if you destroy someone online, in a nice way, you're giving them ammunition, you're giving them another way to have a proper argument with someone. And it's even better when it's the family of the person that's posting the steak. And you do see sometimes, you get arguments from family members. Fantastic.
I would say if it's a business or some sort of industry-related group or something that's doing the damage, then for sure defame them. But at an individual level, I don't think it's as effective. I think there's a better way to use our time, and that way would be to inspire people instead, using positive reinforcement. The amount of people that have seen my informative posts and haven't commented on it, but then have messaged me 6 months later saying, oh, I saw that post, 6 months later, they're vegan. There are way more people that will interact with positive reinforcement and continuous information than there are the defamation posts. I don't think that's a good way to get it through.
I think Kai pretty much hit the nail on the head. So obviously, as an original standpoint of how you're going to go at trying to convince people to go vegan, you should be respectful and you should take an educational approach. That being said, when you do come into contact with someone that is clearly not able to be reasoned with, and they are just posting photos of steak, or you're not going to get through to them, I think at that point in time you kind of have to write them off as an individual and take into consideration the people who are viewing that from an outside perspective, like I said. So, should you go at them and fight fire with fire, fight their aggression with aggression? No. But I think you could take advantage of how idiotic they're being and use that to show other people who may on some level believe in the arguments that that person is using are valid, and in destroying that individual that you're speaking to, you're then showing the people viewing it from an outside perspective that that argument that they also believe in is a bit ridiculous, if that makes sense. So like Earthling Ed does that quite a bit. He himself, when he speaks to people, is very respectful, he's very elegant, I suppose, but when he destroys someone on an intellectual level, and people see that from an outside perspective, so someone says, eating meat tastes nice, Earthling Ed's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's some stupid bullshit. From that individual perspective, that guy's probably not going to go vegan because of that. But people who look at that from an outside perspective are like, oh, I thought that was good, but he just destroyed that guy, and that's what I thought. So probably not, if that makes sense. So yes, if you're sneaky.
I think this kind of social media outreach is kind of has some parallels to the cyberbullying, and like how you're hiding behind the screen, so it's very easy to say stuff that you don't mean, and not seeing that person as a person, knowing that there's someone behind that screen. So I think that it's not very effective, and that you shouldn't really be shaming people, but if in some situations where you do see a window of opportunity for more open educational commenting rather than like debating and shaming, it's much better to go about it in that way.
Send them an invite to go to the Cube for a real face-to-face conversation.
Meet me on the streets, bro. Someone's been 30 of my boys in masks. Alright, we had one more sort of statement about as a question. And I don't really the response thing was a statement. It was to Andy Faulkner, and it was basically asking, please can we get Embrace the Preach t-shirts?
Embrace the Preach?
Yeah. I'd also like We Have the Truth, They're Fucked t-shirts. Andy, how old is that shirt?
2016, I would think so.
I think so. Poppy.com needs a new range.
Done.
Embrace the Preach. We have the truth, they're fucked. We get it done. Alright guys, the last question, and I think it's a really good one to end on, and it's to everyone, so we'll start with Priscilla on this one. What is your favourite activism memory from this year?
This is a tough one. I think I'd have to be a little biased and say the UW Cube. I was hoping, that was like my goal from the beginning, to have a cube up and running, but like I thought in maybe 2 years that I would get it to happen, but it happened in about 6 or 7 weeks, so yeah, I was very proud of that.
Man, got me thinking today. I think probably just at the Cube, spoke to a slaughterhouse worker who ended up telling me that he did regret what he did, and that just went to show that people that actually actively participate in this behaviour can change. So keep it short and sweet. That's it. There you go.
There are a few really amazing ones for AV Illawarra this year, but the Cube of Truth at UAW brought out a really great story This girl, Alyssa, she'd never done a cube before in her life, and she had an amazing conversation, but the guy was just, no, I'm an educated white man, blah, 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 blah. And then he went off to a lecture, came back, tapped her on the shoulder and said, hey, can I have a chat with you? And she was like, oh no, what's going on? And then he said, I've just been sitting there for an hour and a half thinking about what you've said and I've gone vegan. And that was her first ever outreach conversation.
There are so many, there really are so many. I think though, the August march, the Animal Rights March, which looked like it was really not going to happen, within about 3 weeks before the actual march, nothing really had been done. And myself, together with Fish Save and a bit of animal liberation as well, we're tasked to find speakers, to find an MC in Clare, to find a singer, and to tell the police and to get people there. We did it all in 3 weeks. We didn't have a huge turnout. We had about 250 people, which was pretty disappointing, but boy, did we have a good event. It was almost going to rain, so we had a wet weather sort of plan sort of thing, but we walked through the streets. We were so big that the police said originally we weren't going to be allowed to shut down the roads and walk through the roads, but they let us do it. And we were noisy at the top of Martin Place. We were really noisy, and it was good. The people there had a good time, and we had great speeches. But just one other thing, in the last year, we have come so far. So this is why it's so difficult to choose the one memory. I look back now, and on my Facebook it's got, you've been friends with someone for a year, and I'm thinking, oh my God, seriously? I've known this person for about 3 or 4 years. We have done so much in the last 6 months, let alone the 6 months before. I met Andy about 5 years ago, you probably won't remember, but we have come on such a journey. It's great to have these events. Next year is going to be awesome. I reckon we can get 1,000 people there, Andy.
Oh, we won't accept less.
I reckon we can start. Look, we've got so many people in this room now. If everyone brings a couple of people and then we advertise, we do things, it can happen.
On Bard Sydney Vegan Club, there's how many there now? 15,000 or something. So we just need 1,000. We'll hit that goal next year, 2,000, then 5.
I'll do mine really quick. It's I'm quite AV biased, but mine is really split between the AV Dominion March after the Dominion screening in April, or the 12-hour queue that we did. They're both very special for very different reasons. The AV March was very special just because we basically organised it in 2 weeks when Joey just said he was coming to Sydney, and said, okay, we'll do a march then. And then we didn't even have police permits, and we're going to go down the footpath with the whole march, and there just ended up being too many of us there, and we shut down the whole of Pitt Street in the dead of night with 400 people with these masks on and these drums playing. And the 12-hour queue was incredibly special in a different way, in that it felt, because of the length of it and the people that were there, whether they were there for 30 minutes or there from the start, it felt much less like an event and more like a battle had been fought with these people that you stood beside. And I think that's the perfect analogy for what we are in this movement, is that it's not just a series of events, and we're not just people who have a shared hobby. We're people and we're warriors that fight every single day for this cause. And at the end of that event, it started on Pitt Street with absolutely no one there, pissing rain for the first hour, and we thought, this is not going to happen. And then lo and behold, by the end of it, when we all counted down to 10 at the 12th hour, we finished that day having 671 people take veganism seriously as a result of that day. So those two events are very special.
As Jason said, it's been an amazing year, so it's really hard to pick one. And I think the one that stands out for me as, it's hard to call it my favourite because it's also one of the most devastating, but it was when myself and 12 other activists made the decision to jump the fence at Lakesland and go in and attempt to rescue the hens inside that farm. I think we took a really important stand that day for all animals in abuse industries, and we placed our own liberty at risk for the hens inside there. There were 4,000 hens that ended up being murdered in that shed. So for me, that's a really significant moment.
Mine's way more lighthearted than all of these, but it's not so much a happening as it is like it's not so much an incident as it is a discovery, because I always knew that my best friend I helped influence to become vegan, but I only recently learned, he told me I didn't actually inspire or influence him, it's that he found me so annoying and so insufferable that he tried to prove me wrong for ages, for at least a week, and then when he couldn't, he's like, oh, I've got to go vegan now. And that was weirdly more satisfying and more rewarding than anything else that inspired me.
So mine is similar to Izzy's. It was in Lakeland, and it was when we were on lockup together. And at this point we were just covered in chicken shit, and we were not doing well. I'd been tackled, I was limping, and the paramedics had to be called in because our friend Catherine wasn't doing so well in custody. She basically needed some food. And when the paramedics left, they kind of said, well done guys, we're cheering you on. And after all that we've been through that day, it just kind of lifted our spirit a bit, saying, hey, we're doing the right thing. And there was a real sense of togetherness, we're in this together, and we're doing the right thing. So that was my favourite moment.
Mine's a bit of a different personal one. I started at a new gym this year at St. Peter's, and it's a real bodybuilding gym. And they said to me, oh, you're 37 and you're vegan, there's no way you could compete in a bodybuilding competition like us. So that really upset me, so I decided to compete in 4 bodybuilding competitions this year. I won gold in 3 of them. Competition, which was the really big international competition, I came 3rd, and I beat most of the other girls. I'm the oldest person on stage, and I beat all the girls in their 20s, which really pissed them off. And I told them all backstage it was because I was vegan. And a lot of competitors at my gym now are asking a lot about veganism. A few of them have switched to veganism themselves. And I was able to do a whole lot of media around that in things like the Daily Mail and the Inner West Courier about vegan bodybuilding and how it was so much easier to actually be in a healthy lifestyle when you're following a vegan lifestyle.
I'm just going to steal Kai's idea, actually, the impromptu march after the Cube, when we dragged all the people from the Dominion Sydney screen and marched that night without the permit, and then the police escorted us. Police escorted us, and we marched to the Cube location where Izzy was holding a TV, so that gave everyone chills, and she was crying under that mask. And it was really great for the people who'd been there from the start to reflect, and we were all just going together, just saying, yeah, we've arrived, it's happening. Yeah.
Just briefly, thank you to the man beside me, holding the microphone. I've often said that Andy Faulkner is the cornerstone around which the current generation of street activism was built. And
he's the mentor, and I'm constantly taking his advice and learning from the master.
Shut up. Anyway, there is a lot of love between us. And really, to be serious, Andy seriously helped me find my voice. These days I'm fearless, and he played a large role in that. It is very difficult to isolate a single moment from this year that was my favourite activism moment, but it's along the lines of Matt Roja. Something happened right at the start of this year where I was in Pitt Street Mall at a queue, and I saw this young guy, quite tall, and he was standing about 3 or 4 feet from one of the screens, shoulders slumped. And normally I like to give people a moment just to let it sink in, but I just approached him, and things were unusual from the start, because as soon as I was by his side, he quickly turned to me and he said, "It used to be my job." And I looked at him and I said, "What was your job?" He said, "It was my job in the slaughterhouse to bolt gun cows in their head." And we stood there, really eyes fixed on each other, and I said to him, "How did that make you feel?" And with tears beginning to well in his eyes, he said, "It destroys your soul." And we hardly exchanged anything after that. He had to rush off. But it was so powerful, and you could just tell that in that moment there was a breakthrough with this person. And it meant a lot to me because I've spent years trying to include the human story, the human toll, in what we share about farm animals. And I've often said that slaughtering animals is causing harm at both ends of the knife, and he was a perfect example. Thank you.
Alright guys, that concludes ACTIVex Sydney 2018. We have a few more things before you leave. We'll only take a couple more minutes of your time, a couple of exciting things we'd like to announce. Kind of need to press the laptop. I think we should probably go on stage. Too many vegan badasses. Jason. Okay, so the first announcement is, well, it's really the only announcement. After today, many people will know that right now in Sydney we have a lot of activism going on. We went from one demonstration on Event Cinemas a month a couple of years ago to having probably 3 or so events every week now. It's getting pretty insane with all the organisations. Anonymous for the Voiceless Sydney, Truth Walkers, Legion, Fish Say, Cupcake Challenge, Love Animal Say. There's too many to count, and it's a really, really beautiful thing. 2018, as all our testaments to our memories told us, was an incredible year. And one thing that 2019 is going to spell for us, not only is it going to be a far bigger, far better year for the animals, but it's going to be a far bigger, far better year for all of us in how we collaborate. This event was the product of collaboration between 5 groups and all these different speakers representing a variety of different organisations. And so what we're launching after today is a Facebook group called Vegan Activism Sydney Events. And so this is going to be one single location online where you can find the beautiful thing, isn't it? It's like the Sistine Chapel of vegan activism in Sydney. So this is going to be the one-stop spot for every single vegan activism event, or almost every single vegan activism event that goes on in Sydney. We have 9 organisations at the moment collaborating in Sydney that are going to be posting on this group. So similar way to if any of you guys are in the ACTIVex Sydney group, how we have a monthly schedule there with every single event, every single time, every single link, and we promote every single event a day or so before. We promote all the big events. That's going to be like this. This is going to be absolutely everything. So never any excuse to miss an activism event now. Alright guys, other than that, so that page is, where'd it go? Hold up.
More technical issue.
It's just been a day of fun, hasn't it? Alright, so just some links. That there, it's launched, it's live now. It went live during the event today, so pop out your phones after the event finishes. It's the Vegan Activism Sydney events on Facebook. You'll find it. The group already has a fair few people in it, but could do with a lot more. Other than that, guys, if you would like to support the Vegan Activism Sydney community online or through any form of donation, the best place to go is Patreon. Now, Patreon is what's called a sort of pledge-based system where instead of giving one large single sum, people pledge a certain amount. Some people do $10 a month, some people do $15 a month. But if you want to support Vegan Activism Sydney, perhaps you don't have time yourself to be there on the ground, this is a great way of doing it. We have a lot of costs regarding equipment, regarding Facebook promotion, regarding everything. And so we've got a really nice link, which is patreon.com/activism. So if you want to support vegan activism monetarily, you can go to that link. Other than that, did you guys have some final words?
I just wanted to once again thank everybody for coming today and for your patience with all our technical issues as well. Like I said earlier, by coming here today, you have taken a stand for animals and shown that you're interested in being a part of the vegan activism community. We're really excited about that page and getting all groups collaborating together. What we've seen so far is our numbers just skyrocket at events by having all the groups working together, all our members working together, putting all our resources together and things like that as well. So we really want to foster that community building. And just once again, I just want to mention the Animal Project, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. They do amazing work. We do a lot of vigils with them as well. So make sure you look up their page on Facebook. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate your time here today. And sorry, just one more thing. Thank you to our amazing speakers as well.
The organisers as well. I know Kai came up with the idea a while ago. Izzy's been working really hard, Beck's been working really hard, Matt's been working hard. Obviously, we've all been working really well as a team, and I think part of this page where it's come from, and on the back of coming from Dominion in Melbourne, where you had 3,000 people getting together, we're stronger together. Much stronger together. It's best not to fight, it's best to work together. We've all got the same common goals. Thank you.